what I'm most grateful for in my sobriety is that like all of the shitty things I did, all the things that I tried to hide from everybody, all the things that I never wanted to have see the light of day, I hid from God, I hid from my family, I hid from friends. You know, I would delude myself into thinking I wasn't that bad or I didn't really do that. All of those things I get to use today to help other people.
It's in the implementation where you learn. That's exactly where you learn. Like you can't have it all figured out before you start. Like that is exactly where you learn, and that, as we all know, like everybody wants to, including myself, dude. Like I wanted to know exactly how to do something before I did it, but it's in the implementation where I learn.
I had tried everything I could to get sober on my own, and I couldn't stop getting high. You know, and it was so weird to me because everything else that I've ever put my mind to, I was able to solve, right? Whether it was like I wanted the girl or I wanted the job or I wanted the position on the team or I needed to hit the sales goal, like anything I put my mind to, I could solve. But like when it came to this, for some reason, I couldn't stop getting high.
Yeah, this spot's dope.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, thank you, bro. I appreciate you doing this with me. So this is cool too, cause like I honestly, like, I know you, but I don't know you that like that though.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I've
I
never
get that.
been like I've never had like an hour-long conversation with you, right? Like, and this is what's cool about doing this, bro, is like when I started doing it like 2 years ago, I started to actually get to know people in the community. You
Yeah.
know, so like this is awesome. Um, but yeah, dude, like you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Wade. I'm the CEO and the owner of Plugged In Recovery. I've been sober for 4.5 years now.
Yep.
September will be 5 years by the grace of God. One day at
Damn.
a time. I know.
That's crazy.
And I've known you
Yeah.
basically the whole time.
Yeah, yep. That's right.
So it's been a wild ride. You know, started with just attending the nights, doing that type of thing. Not someone who got this done my first try. I
Yeah.
went through the program and the cycle and, you know, trying to do things my way long enough
Right.
before finally getting beat into submission.
Yeah, that's right, bro. And that's usually how it goes too, man, you know? So like I want to do something a little bit different, bro,
Okay.
because I know that like I've seen your journey online, dude, and like in person and stuff, and I think it's very admirable, it's very brave, right? And so I want to kind of tune into that. So like what is the story behind Plugged In?
So Plugged In Recovery started, um, it's actually pretty crazy. So I was struggling with addiction and I was in Minnesota and I was, you know, slowly researching myself because I could see the writing on the wall that I needed treatment.
Right.
I mean, I used in isolation. No one really knew what was going on, but I was getting to the point where I had tried everything I could to get sober on my own and I couldn't stop getting high. You know, and it was so weird to me because everything else that I've ever put my mind to, I was able to solve, right? Whether it was like I wanted the girl or I wanted the job or I wanted the position on the team or I needed to hit the sales goal, like anything I put my mind to, I could solve. But like when it came to this, for some reason, I couldn't stop getting high. So I finally started researching how to go to treatment and what that process would look like. And I made some phone calls. And in that journey, what ended up happening is I would call a place and I'd say, hey, like, I need help. What's the process for this? And it was never, who are you as a person? It was never, what do you struggle with? Are you anxious, depressed? Do you have trauma? Are you gay, straight, whatever it is, right? Like they didn't ask any questions about me. It was strictly, what insurance policy do you have? You have this, you could go here, here, here.
So
And
it was like they didn't really care.
They didn't care at all. I just felt like
Yeah.
in that process, and it wasn't even what location do you want to be in, what part of the country do you want to be in. It almost felt like it was whoever was going to pay them the most money, you know?
Yeah.
I remember one guy was like, oh, we have this place in Tennessee. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to go to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in Minnesota. Like, I
Right,
don't want to
yeah.
go to Tennessee. And so through that process, I ended up getting help, going to Arizona, went through treatment, and I had this idea originally that if I could create this community that was helping people find addiction treatment centers and it would plug them into recovery, that it would be something that would be beneficial to people who are just like me. I started the company actually after a relapse, and I started this page and I got the LLC, and long story short is I was like in a meth and heroin psychosis.
Oh, damn.
Researching online,
Yeah.
how do I start an LLC and up all night and right. And so Plugged In Recovery was started as a Delaware company because I guess in my meth psychosis, I thought that gave me the best tax benefit. So I found out later that I had to have an Arizona LLC to operate in Arizona the way we were. But
Especially as a service, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So as a service, like if it's an online company, I could have done it in Delaware,
Right.
but as it progressed, it was just money spent and wasted. But that's what happens when you're in a meth psychosis. But you know what? It made me do it. And then what ended up happening is I built this little bit of an online community, and I had experience in, Facebook advertising and Instagram at the time. You could really use hashtags to get followers and things of that nature. And I was building this page that was growing really rapidly. I mean, from like 500 to 1,000 to 1,500 to 2,000 to 2,500 to 3,000 to 5,000, and people reaching out and saying like, "Hey, this is really helping me." And all during that time, I mean, I had friends who were like making fun of me because they knew I was getting high.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like all that time, these people are saying like, "This is really helping me," and I'm like crying in my room, being like, "I can't even help myself,"
Yeah.
like.
Damn, dude, that is crazy.
It was.
That is crazy.
It was a wild. It was a wild journey. I went to River Source Treatment Center the last time, and I got some, hard facts and hard reality of like what it is to be fraudulent in activities trying to help addicts and alcoholics, right? But what that ended up happening is I went back into Paul G's houses and I went into sober living, and previous to that I had been in and out of a bunch of different sober livings, and I liked a lot of what he was creating with his atmosphere and how much he cared about the guys, and I really admired that, and I admired the family man that he was, and I wanted to start a sober living. And when I was at 11 months sober, I was starting to look for houses, and this would have been like 2018. I was just about to buy a house, and I relapsed again.
Oh, damn.
And so that kind of took me to some other lows and things of that nature. But this last time around, I had said, I'm going to get sober, and when I get 1 year sober, I'm going to actually look for a house. I'm going to buy a house, and I'm going to start a sober living. And I don't regret, which is what's so cool about our program is, somebody had said in a meeting the other night, the topic was something to the effect of like, what are you most grateful for in sobriety? And a lot of people said, that I have my family back, that I have this. And, what I'm most grateful for in my sobriety is that like all of the shitty things I did, all the things that I tried to hide from everybody, all the things that I never wanted to have see the light of day, I hid from God, I hid from my family, I hid from friends. I would delude myself into thinking I wasn't that bad or I didn't really do that. All of those things I get to use today to help other people. So I started the first house, and one house turned into two houses, and two houses turned into three, and three into four. And then I quit my job at GoDaddy. I had a really good, high-paying job.
Okay. So you didn't quit right away then?
No,
Okay.
It was I don't want to call it a side hustle. It wasn't a side hustle. It was like I would work from 7 to 3 and then like 3 to midnight on this every single day, and then weekends it was like kind of full time. So it became really hard once I got to the fourth house to really manage all that goes on in the houses and hold down a full-time job, and behest to probably my parents and to everybody else, because I had a really cushy 401k and stock options and health insurance and all of these things. I just, God kept saying like, this is the direction you have to go. This is the direction you have to go. And I have this reality today that, I think of it when I was a little kid, when there was this pit in my stomach when I knew something was right or wrong. you know? And I think being back sober has given me that conscious contact, right, with God, that when something is on my heart or I feel a certain type of way and it keeps coming up, I can't ignore it. And that's exactly what happened. And when I quit the job, it was crazy because I quit in April. May 1st, I think, was my last official day because I had vacation and stuff. But from May to September, I doubled the amount of houses that we had. So I went from 4 to 8, and then we got up to like
That's impressive.
it was wild. And the cool thing was is like it was a lot of work and it was a lot of headache and it was a lot of heartache and figuring out a lot of processes. And I had a lot of help along the way of people who, you know, believed in me and a lot of friends and homies from the first year that I got sober, that all those relationships I had made had like came back and paid, you know, dividends beyond measure. But once I got to like house number 10, I knew I wanted to start a treatment center because, again, from that initial conversation of calling those people on the phone, is I wanted to have a place that wasn't like anybody else. And I started seeing a lot of the people who were coming to my sober living houses and the way that it seemed like treatment was, it was just going away from all the things that I liked that got me sober. And I wanted to go back to really grassroots in a traditional recovery system with a lot of the modern modalities, the things that I like, right? Yeah. But not foo-foo treatment. Right. And by starting that out, you know, I had a lot of people who were like, hey, man, you're 3.5 years sober. What business do you have starting a treatment center? What business do you have helping other people out? Yeah. And my answer to that was, I had been through treatment so many times that, like, I know all the things that don't work. Yeah. I have friends who have 10 years sober. My dad has 12 years sober. I have, you know, a plethora of people I've met throughout the program that have helped a lot of people out. And I know exactly what doesn't work. And so I can start this place and do all the things that I know do work. Right. And that's how we started the treatment center. And then now we've gone into the outpatient center, and we're working on a couple other things right now. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude, and that's like really impressive, you know. And like it was cool to see the growth, like from when it started with the like sober livings and stuff. So that's amazing. So what did that fear and the challenges, like, what did those look like for you? Like, what kind of mentality did you have?
So I had fear constantly,
yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to say that I went into this and was just like full force, everything's going to work, all that type of stuff. Like, there was that fear, but the reality is, and I think where God places certain people at certain times, is I was in this stage of my life where the last 7 years before that, I had nuked my life 50 times over, right? Yeah. Like, I had built up money when I had a really high-paying, multiple six-figure job and crashed it all down. I had lost relationships. I had blown jobs. I had blown opportunities where I had to go. I was homeless at one point. So it was like I had lost everything so many times. I knew I had the blueprint to get it all back. Right? You stay sober, you do these types of things, like all the things you lose will come back. Exactly. So like a lot of the fear I had, I realized was just self-doubt in my own capabilities, which I knew weren't going to do me any good, because the ultimate fear at the end of the day when I came down to it was you can only be fearful that you're not good enough or that you're not going to be okay. And I have a vast amount of experience and proof that even if I lose it all, as long as I'm sober, I'm okay. So, like, that fear at the end of the day, just playing that game back and forth of, like, at the end of the day, my root fear is that I'm going to lose it all. But I've already had that before, and I know it's not that bad. So just go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's refreshing.
Yeah,
like
it was
starting over because now you have nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
And, like, it's like, what? Since I don't have anything to lose, like, just hammer everything in, you know? That's cool, man. And so, like, what's your plans? Like, what are your future plans with this?
Yeah, so I plan to just make as big of a ripple on the recovery community as possible. And what that I hope looks like, it's always been, you know, something that I have all the guys in the houses do and girls in the houses do. And we've done it from day one because it's kind of how I successfully started this whole process was I write down weekly, monthly, short-term, midterm, and long-term goals. Okay. And my goals have always been what I call is my stretch goal is I would like to have treatment, full continuum, detox, inpatient, outpatient, sober living here and in one other state. And if we can, accomplish that, a dream of mine has always been to bring it back home into the Midwest where I'm originally from. I have no business or want to live there. I'm over the cold. I love Arizona. It feels like a vacation every single day here. But my dream was always to have it in another state like that and kind of have the exact same model and hopefully create enough of a ripple that other people pick up what we're doing and want to do the exact same thing.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Cause I have noticed that. Cause when I go visit places, like I used to live in Sacramento,
Okay.
and there's not really recovery like here in
Yeah.
Arizona, especially here in the East Valley.
It's
Like we're extremely blessed, to be surrounded by
I
these
tell
people.
people that all the time. If you've been to Sacramento and you've been probably in other places where I go to meetings in lots of places, and you can find a niche of people who are really doing the deal anywhere in the world, right? There's people who are they're doing the deal, but like to have such a mecca in such a short area of space. Right, where we have people who are doing the deal you can find that in every city in the Phoenix metro. So it's like we're so plugged in as a community into the recovery that, we have the conferences that are coming up, conventions, you have a plethora of like softball, volleyball, river floats, bingo nights, you have bowling, you have all these leagues that are surrounded around, sobriety that a lot of other places don't have that kind of opportunity.
Yeah, it's true, man, and it's a trip, and I admire that, because it's true, bro. Everyone needs help, and I like what you said that hopefully other people pick it up,
Yeah.
right? Pick up that the same values that you're providing as a company, right? And as a rehabilitation center, like I don't know, that's really a selfless thing, right? Because you just want to help people, right? And so that's cool, man. So like, what's one thing what's something that recovery has taught you that you have implemented as a businessman or a business owner?
I would say that, I mean, the principles that recovery has taught me from day one to now, I get to use on a daily basis in my business, right? How to admit when I'm wrong and just get it through. Like the steps are designed as a blueprint for how to live my life, whether it's like in recovery or in business or in my family and relationships. So I would say, one of the biggest lessons that it's taught me is that I'm not in control. As much as sometimes you want to be in control, I cannot control people, places, and things. And if I have these crazy expectations, it's just going to set me up for some resentment. And as an addict and alcoholic, that's the worst thing that I can possibly be is resentful at someone, right? For unrealistic expectations. And I find invariably, like actor's scenario, right? I can hold people all of a sudden to a standard that I've found somewhere in my life that I haven't held myself to, but yet I can have this pompous attitude and like, you should be doing this. So I can take a look at myself in the practices that I've been taught in recovery and apply that to situations in business, which I think helps me go a lot farther. It helps me build a culture, dependent faith on God, right? That like you didn't get me this far to just get me this far. And being able to use all those experiences to benefit other people rather than thinking that I have to have some secret sauce that I'm closing in on. Because I know at the end of the day, it becomes execution. So like you can have the game plan, you can have all the things, but like, are you going to execute it?
Exactly. Yeah, and like that's exactly what I was gonna ask too, because there has been times where I feel like I've been called, but I'm doing something else, and I almost feel like I'm being disobedient to God, right? And so, like, what would you say to somebody that is called, feels like they're called to do something, but like,
I would say, what's the fear?
Okay, yeah.
I would say because like at the end of the day, that's what it always comes down to. If there's something that continually gets put on your heart, where that it just keeps popping up, I have to look at what is the fear. Am I trying to grab the paintbrush from God, right? Is God would if I think of God as like the best artist in the world, right? He's painted trees, oceans, mountains, you, me, my entire life situations. Why why at times do I all of a sudden when I'm the terrible artist. The way I painted my life up until I got into recovery was god awful, right? Like, I mean, you couldn't mess things up more than me. I was the type of guy who I would do everything right and it would turn to absolute shit, and then I could blame everybody else. And then there was times where I did everything wrong and then somehow it turned out great. And I was like, see what I did there? Right? And like I realized that like I was never in control of the paintbrush. So if I can just really lean on God to say in those situations, like, you hold the brush, you direct my steps, like all I have to do is put in a little bit of work, a little bit of action. And if it's the right thing, doors will start opening up. It'll just start happening. Doors will start opening up. People will start getting, down with your cause. They'll help you out. And you'll find that like those doors keep opening and you just keep walking through one after one after one. And if not, and it's like a door slammed shut on your face, maybe you take a little bit of a turn, right? Or maybe it's time to just pause and come back to it later.
Yeah, and like it's always when you're intentional about something, like disruption always will follow because God is trying to mold you into the person uh that he wants you to be, and so like it's in the implementation where you learn. That's exactly where you learn. Like you can't have it all figured out before you start. Like that is exactly where you learn, and that, as we all know, like everybody wants to, including myself, dude. Like I wanted to know exactly how to do something before I did it, but it's in the implementation where I learn. So that's awesome, dude. Hey, I wanted to take a quick second and thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch these videos. Hope you're enjoying the conversation as much as I am. If these videos have impacted you in any way possible, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe button. And if there's anything that you would like to see, whether it be like character development, something that has to do with recovery or spiritual growth, let me know in the comments and I'll implement it on my next video. So like what did your relationship look like with God
So I treat,
before you got sober?
yeah, I treated God like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
That I say that all the time, but like that was truly my relationship with God. A couple times a year, just like it was for Christmas, right? It was like, God, what do I have to do to not get cold this year? What does your boy have to do to hit a scratcher? And unfortunately, when you have a relationship like that, you tend to set yourself up for a lot of failure, and it's not anything to do with God, but it's on my own expectations of what it should look like. It was a relationship that, I might post something on Facebook or Instagram because I think it would get likes, but there was nothing that was of substance or value or anything I was taking in. I had never gotten into God's word. I had never really took the time to build any type of relationship. And unfortunately, it was a facade like I lived in so many other areas of my life that I needed to have some honest conversations with God of like things that I was not happy about. I couldn't work through a relationship with him until I got past, why did I have to go to foster care? Why did my parents have to do this? Why did that person have to die? And And so I don't think God is like, I don't think if I'm going to church every week and I'm in the word every day, that I'm closer than the drug addict or alcoholic who's on the street holding a sign for money like I was at one point. I don't think I'm closer to God than that that drug addict is closer to God, right? I would probably argue that God is probably closer to that drug addict in that time than he is to me. But am I developing my relationship so I can behave in a better way to hopefully get to do God's work and go help people like that?
Yeah, that's interesting, man. That's so like you didn't and like did you grow up like like in a household that believed in God and all that stuff?
Yeah, so
So
we were Catholic.
okay, yeah,
And it wasn't, I didn't think he was necessarily a spiteful God or anything like that, but I really had a lot of OCD. Everything for me was very ritualistic. And when you are ritualistic and you break a ritual, what tends to happen is you think there's a punishment for breaking that ritual. And if my relationship with God is only dependent on me doing 3 Hail Marys and going on my knees or above my knees or standing on a pew or 3 crosses, right? Like if my relationship is dependent on that and I don't do that, I'm in a really bad spot. And so we would go to church and we would do those types of things. We weren't, I would say, regulars by any means, but we would go more than just your regular 5 times a year, right? But I went through a confirmation process. And in that confirmation process, my parents went through their divorce. And in that, out of some spite and me being in foster care and things of that nature, they were going to delay my confirmation. And I just took that as like, I just took it as such a slight of God and of the religion and of that because I felt like I was getting caught in the crossfire of 2 other people's battle. And that was like my biggest turn away from God.
I see. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, and yeah, same here. That was my experience as well. You know, it looks similar to that, man. But yeah, I'm glad that it like the 12 steps were just wide open
Yeah.
for me. You know, so that's awesome, dude. So like, how nowadays, like, how do you feed your mind and your body and your spirit?
So what that looks like today for me is a plethora of things. Attending church on Sundays, being active. I haven't been as active in Celebrate Recovery as I was previously, but we started that at the local church. And so having that program and kind of building on that fellowship, we started a meeting hall so I get to feed my spirit through kind of openly putting that there.
That one's dope. I've been there. I've been recording there.
Really?
Yeah. The like the last like 3 episodes I've recorded there.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was like, "Yo, Paul, can I come through?"
It's
there?
a good spot.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good spot.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I feed it there. I feed it through the Word, something simple like the Bible app, just to get in the Word on a daily, every other day basis. And then, of course, kind of the 2 things is just a recognition of God in the morning and a recognition of God before I close my eyes. Some days that recognition is long-winded, and it is a different prayer because I do believe that, again, getting out of the ritual thing is trying to say something a little different every single day so it's not just this parrot prayer type of thing.
And it's not a genuine relationship.
Exactly.
You know? It's not a genuine relationship.
It's not. And the other thing that I've done really for my spirit is I do things like cold plunge and the sauna. And I do things like the gym, active, right? I don't think God gave me this body to use to put a bunch of junk food in me and sit around all day. But I always tell people, like, if you can find God in a cold plunge with 34, 35 degrees of water, you can find God anywhere, So that's something that I try to do at least once, if not twice a week, is jump in the cold plunge because that is a place where your body is screaming at you to think of anything else. And I think it's a really spiritual practice to find God in that place when like everything around you is chaos and your body is in just extreme discomfort. Trying to find God is truly a spiritual experience in there.
Yeah, awesome. And what about your mind?
So my mind I feed with, I've been very careful with what I let influence me.
That's awesome, dude.
It's
because I've been on that. Sorry to interrupt, but I've been on that the past like 6 months. Yeah, because like you're a product of what you consume.
Facts.
And I never realized that until like 6 months ago. when I started like feeding my mind with positive things, like motivational speakers,
Yeah.
right? Like reading. So yeah, just
What's your favorite motivational speaker?
Myron Golden,
He's good.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now that's him. He's like, I never thought that somebody would influence the way that I think about myself. And that's like insane, you
Yeah.
know, to me. Like he made me believe in myself, right? Like he didn't give me access, but he gave me awareness to that access because it's within myself and with God that I'm able to believe in myself that I am able to achieve anything, you know. So and that was like a game changer for me. That and the word, you
Yeah.
know, 100%.
That's good. That's good stuff. It's crazy because I see so many people who are in struggles in their life, or I see so many people who are maybe they have just went through a successful season of their life, and what they do is they start consuming other content, or they start being around other types of people, and they don't realize that you are the sum of that. You know, there's certain people who I love, and they're my friends, and I can see them, and I'm going to say what's up and dab them up and do all those types of things. But I know I'm not going to be hanging out with them on a Friday or Saturday night. It's just not, I'm not going to do it, right? Like, they still go to strip clubs. They still do this type of stuff that when I look at it, it's like, is this person going to have a happy marriage by living this way? And it doesn't take long before I start hanging out with them that I start to think, well, I can do that too, because I know my self-justification in mind is I'm going to say, well, I went to it only once this month. Those guys go to it 3 times. So I'm not as bad as them, which is the same behavior as I'm not the guy who's sleeping under a bridge, right? So I'm not as bad as him. It's super easy for my mind to delude that. So I have to be very careful of what I put in place, which can be lonely at times. You can be very isolatory. I do find myself doing that more. And I think the disease takes that, especially in business. I'm very obsessive compulsive. Very much so care about not only the people that we're helping, but like growing to be able to help more people. And I obsess about it. It's like all I can think about. And I begin to isolate in that, and I have to be very careful of that right now, because the other thing that does is when I'm around people who I forget have the exact same disease as me, that I all of a sudden start to think that they wouldn't understand what I'm dealing with. You know, and that's that terminal uniqueness that is the disease still fighting inside me.
Yeah, damn, man, that's awesome, dude. And it's like it's so true. Like it's so true, man. Like I didn't realize how much it affected me until I started like consuming all this positive stuff and yeah, like people, the sick person's always gonna win you over.
Yeah.
You know.
They're called influencers for
Yeah,
a reason. They
exactly,
influence,
exactly, exactly. So what's the most recent inspiration that you've received?
The most recent inspiration that I've received.
Yeah, whether it's something that you've heard, something that you've read, something that somebody told you.
I would say I was listening to, I believe it was 3 days ago, I was in the gym and I was listening to Alex Hermosi.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, he's great. And I think the biggest piece of influence that he had said recently anyways was that, you know, after a period of time, it's none of it's going to matter. Right? You're gonna, you know, make a lot of money. You're gonna lose a lot of money. You're going to have kids. You're gonna have this type of impact, and none of it's gonna matter. So, what are you holding yourself back from if it's other people's opinions of you, of why you're not gonna try to do and have the biggest impact that you can have? Because the only thing that is going to last through that is the legacy that is built. So, spending time caring about what people think or what people say, which I think I've done a pretty good job at not buying into that, because that was something I think early in my recovery I really, really struggled with, was caring so much about what I thought other people thought about me.
Exactly.
And the people that I don't talk to, have relationships with, right? Like, I don't understand why I care what I think this person thinks about me, exactly. Right? Because I don't even know what they think about me. And I found that during that time, most of it was just all this fallacy in my mind, because I realized that everybody is so self-consumed that like I've had friends come up to me and be like, "Oh, I know you were probably thinking this," and I'm like, "Bro, like, I don't have time to think about your problem, right? Like, unless we're on the phone, yeah, unless we're on the phone and I'm trying to talk you through it, like, I don't have time to just sit and contemplate your problem at home." And then I was like, "Dude, people are doing the same thing about me." So, just him saying that again and reiterating, uh, not having fear of what is going to shake out because you're out of control. I mean, this last week we've had talk about a roller coaster. I've had times where we're completely full and looking at another house to a couple AMAs. And then you're like, oh, like how we have to get it all together. And it's just like, it's such a roller coaster that you're going to come with ebbs and flows. But at the end of the day, I think if you're doing God's work, it's all going to shake out the way you want it to. So not having fear of what those outcomes are going to be, because it's in the end, it's not going to matter.
Exactly. Damn, that's so beautiful, man. I love Alex too. You mentioned something, man, that I picked up on. It was like the legacy that you want to leave. So what is the legacy you want to leave?
I want to leave a legacy of someone who genuinely cared about bringing traditional recovery back with the modern modalities and the modern systems that are in place to help people recover. I think having AA, the 12 steps, everything else around for so long and being such a testament, and then seeing the drastic change over the last 10 years, really, but it's probably even a little longer than that, of people drastically turning to, oh, we're just like mental health and we're going to do this breath work and deep work and stuff like that. I would like to be known for someone who really helped pioneer traditional recovery with a lot of the modern things, right? Cold plunge, red light therapy, there's blue light therapy, there's all of these types of things now. And bringing that stuff into traditional recovery to really not reinvent the wheel, but just make the old wheel have maybe a little better tread on it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. No, I love that, man. I love that. Well, I appreciate you doing this with me, man.
I
Seriously, it
appreciate
was
you.
it was awesome getting to know you, picking your mind a little bit, man, and just like knowing what your goals are and just knowing you as a person, you know. Like I said in the beginning, like it's cool to sit down and have a conversation with someone in your community for an hour, you
Yeah.
know, when like it sometimes it's always surface level, right? Like always just seeing people here and there at meetings or somewhere else, and it's all kind of just surface level. So I appreciate you doing this with me, man.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you having me. I hope now we're going to be doing this regularly is the goal, right? Where we can pick through maybe some different topics. We can share our experience on topics. Maybe we can bring certain people in and stuff like that. And we can have a little spin off of what you're currently doing, because I see what you're posting. I see what you're doing. I truly believe in what you're doing and the brand that you're creating, the personal brand you're creating, and the spiritual brand that you're creating. I believe that fits into what I'm trying to do with bringing something that I think a lot of people started shying away from because they got too afraid to speak about it, which is their spiritual relationship. And I just admire you for not only doing it, but staying consistent, because I think that's what the biggest problem with people are, is they put a few things out there and maybe they don't get the traction they like, or they don't think people like it, and then they stop, and they stop before that miracle happens. So I just want to commend you, and I hope that you continue doing that, but then we can continue taking some other stuff to another level. I'm really excited about it.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. Like nobody's really told me that because a lot of people just don't understand, right? But like you said you're obsessive, right? Like you're focused,
Yeah.
right? And like we know what that means, you
Yeah.
know, and a lot of people are distracted,
Yeah.
right? And like not to down other people, but
No.
like you understand the grind and like that the outcome is in the journey itself, right? Like it's the person that you're becoming that really matters. So I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
So tell them where they can find you, man. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find us at pluggedinrecovery.com, azsober.com for the website, is for the sober living, Instagram, Plugged in Recovery, TikTok, Plugged in Recovery. You can find me personally, Wade Aaron Mulhauser. I would love to connect with you. If you're struggling, I promise you're not alone. We have tons of resources, whether it's a family member who needs resources because you're struggling with a loved one and you just need some help to get okay, or it's yourself who's going through something. I've personally been there. I get it. I understand what it feels like to think you have no option and that this is what your life is going to reside to. That feeling will go away, and you have people who want to help. So I hope you reach out, and until we see you next time.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, dude.